Hello everyone, old-time gentleman here for a second video on handwriting repair. Hopefully by now you've seen the first video. You're ready to go, you've got your pen, your paper, your table, and you're ready to learn how to write. So today we're going to learn everything but writing. What I mean by that is we're going to go through how to hold a pen, the arm movements, the difference between wrist, forearm and whole arm movements, and the posture at desk, which is how to sit at a table. So 3 things you might notice about this course as we go through with it. The first one is that it's going to be quite a short video. There isn't much to learn, but it's going to be the most important one. If you don't look at the other videos, if you don't learn the alphabet, you'll still improve your writing tremendously by just following these few tips on how to hold a pen and how to move your arm around. The Palmer method actually goes, the original book actually goes into 15 pages on how to sit at your desk. So you can see it's quite important. I've run through it, it's quite boring. It didn't help much to go through the whole 15 pages and the 5 complete full-page images on kids sitting at desks, so I'll try to shorten it quite a bit for these videos. The second one is the whole course is going to be completely humiliating for you. Why? Because it's all stuff you thought you had learned when you were 6, and now I'm telling you, basically, you're wrong. The way you hold a pen is wrong, the way you write is wrong, and you've got to take this and start again completely. Sorry about that. It's going to make you feel bad, it's going to kick your self-esteem in the balls, but everyone has to go through it. The third thing is if you're left-handed. I'm not left-handed, so I'm not an expert, but I've tried looking at videos. I think I get a feel for what left-handed writing is about. So I'll try to give you a few tips, but if they don't work, I'm sorry, I just didn't test them because my left-handed writing is just pure evil. So now what I'm going to do is have a shot of my hand so you can see very closely how to hold a pen. So today, instead of having an awkward cut we had last time, I found some really cheesy 70s transition that I'm going to use now. Okay, so here you can see my hand, hopefully. You can also may see some squiggly bits from the other takes I did, which didn't turn out too great. The first thing to know about the way you hold your pen is that it's not incredibly important. Like, there isn't one perfect way to do it, and if you don't do it, then you fail. We're going to see that with the way to move your arm. There's one way to do it, it's the perfect one. If you don't do it, you have rubbish handwriting. This isn't really like that. There's like loads of different ways, and I'd say try and find one that you feel comfortable with. I'm going to show you the 2 main ones, the ones that people usually use. Now, the 2 things that are important with the way you hold your pen is, first one, you have to have a solid grip. So if you try and hold your pen and it never grips, maybe you should change your pen. But overall, a good grip on your pen may help you, especially if you're left-handed, because some left-handed usually have their hands slide down and then smudging their words as they go along. So you have to really have a grip where you can actually be far away enough from the paper so that even when you're writing, in the right direction, your hand doesn't smudge the paper. So your hand doesn't really touch the words you've just written. The second thing that's really important is to have some flexibility in your fingers. So if you hold it too much like this, you can't really move your fingers. Your wrist is free, but your fingers aren't, so you can't get loads of these nice flourishes on small paper. Some really small, nice round flourishes are done with the fingers. By the way, I'm going to use a lot of the finger-ish vocabulary, so I'm going to just be completely oblivious to any innuendos that there'll be, because there'll be loads of sexual innuendos as we go along. Now, the first thing you have to know about how to hold a pen is that you've probably been taught right. The way we teach it, we teach kids when they're 5 or 6 to hold a pen, is usually the right way. The problem is it's a matter of remembering it, because I don't know if you remember what your teachers told you when you were 6, but I definitely don't. So the first technique is the one that goes like this, which is the one most teachers of handwriting would tell you to use. So you've got the base of the pen that's between your thumb and your first finger, index finger, and then you have the tip of the pen. Don't be writing completely with the tip, or you'll end up with ink all over your fingers, but somewhere near the tip of the pen you've got the end of your index finger and the first knuckle here of your middle finger, your fuck you finger. So usually you write it like this, and it's the best way to do it in that you get enough of a grip, and you can still kind of use your fingers to push the pen around like this. Now the technique I use, and I've seen a few calligraphers use it as well, is this one. It's the one where you add the ring finger on it. So basically you'll be gripping with your 2 fingers here, gripping the tip of the pen, and then you add your ring finger as kind of a base, so you don't push the pen down as you write. You add this ring finger here. Some calligraphers say it gives you more of a grip, but trust me, that's rubbish, because the first one has enough of a grip already. So I would say this is the wrong way to do it, but loads of teachers of handwriting tell you it's completely okay to do it like this. So you can have enough of a grip and you still have some movement in your fingers, though you lose some of it. That's the technique I usually use. You can see you can get some really nice finger action with this. Now then we're going to take a look at, because this is basically the base, you know, you've got your grip, you've got finger action. That's all you need to know on how to hold a pen, and now we're going to look at arm movements, which is really the thing that can really improve your handwriting. Okay, so you've got your pen, you know how to hold it, and now we're going to look at first your arm movement, how to move your arm around to make your writing look a lot more consistent and get some really nice curves out of it. And the second thing we're going to look at is posture, so how to sit at a desk. I said it would be humiliating. The first thing you want to know is that there are 3 types of movement. These 3 types are highlighted in the Spencer Brothers book, Practical Penmanship. The first one is wrist movement, the second one is forearm movement, and the third one, full arm, whole arm movement. These work the same way sub-jacket buttons do. What I mean by that is that there's a rule, it's sometimes, always, never. Sometimes you'll use your whole arm, you'll always use the forearm, and never the wrist by itself. Now this is what you've been told, right? You take your forearm, you drive it down to the table, and you move your wrist while writing. So what you end up doing is doing like this. And it looks really hilly. You know, you'll end up having this kind of look. Instead, we're going to look at how to get a really nice shape out of your handwriting. How do we do that? We free the forearm. The forearm movement is really, first, the most awkward feeling you ever get, because you're used to using your wrist, and now I'm going to tell you, do not use it, you have to write with your forearm, and you'd just be like, how? But you'd get there. Um, the second thing is, it's going to be the thing that's really going to improve your writing, because you'd get from some really weird shapes down to really nice curved, really straight lines. The whole arm movement is the coolest looking by far. You see loads of graffiti artists doing like this. It looks cool, but it's completely useless unless you want to write your course notes on a wall, which I don't think you do. So we're not going to learn it. What we're going to learn is how to write with the forearm. So what you're going to do is, instead of driving the forearm down to the floor, we're going to just lightly tap our elbow down to the table while still being able to slide it around like this. And then what you're going to do is, to make your curves, you're just going to slightly move your elbow and use the forearm to bring your curves around. So like this. So you see, there are three things that really do the work. There's a really slight movement on your elbow. The forearm is really what's driving it. And then to get some really nice small curves, we're going to use some really small wrist movements. So instead of doing like this, we're going to use the forearm and just use the wrist to accompany it, to just bring it slightly over. This is going to get some really nice curves. What teachers of handwriting usually have you do is draw circles in the air. So just go like this. Instead of using your wrist as you would, do not use the wrist, just go like this. Try to use your elbow as little as possible. And then just use the wrist to bring it all around and get some really nice curves. Don't do it too much for two reasons. First, it's not that useful. And second one, you look completely stupid at the moment. So once you have this done, just practice it a lot. You know, don't look at alphabets, just use the same alphabet you would. Even if it's not cursive, if it's print, still get that forearm to do the movement for you. And you'll see that your curves are really going to come out really nicely. Now you've got this down, one thing you want to look at is how to sit at the desk. Because what you could have done before is just sit like this. Like, I don't care. And why can you sit like this? Because you're using your wrist, right? You're just doing like this. Now that I'm telling you, use your forearm. You're going to try to do like this. And again, you look completely stupid. So what you're going to have to do is sit straight. Now I sound like an 8th grade teacher. Is 8th grade even a class in America? Like, you know, like, yeah. Sit straight and make sure you don't face plant the paper, because one of the things people usually do when they're trying to improve their writing is they start off like this. As they go, they're like, oh, that curve, oh, and boom. Yeah, why would you do that? Because one important thing about learning how to write is that it's got to be consistent over the entire line, so that the first letter of the line should be exactly the same size as the last letter. What that means is that when you're writing, you have to have really this nice vision of the entire line. You got to be aware of the entire line, the line on top and the line at the bottom. What this means is you cannot face plant the paper. So really take care of that. It's hard to get into at first. It's going to be really awkward because I was used to just writing like this. And having to sit up straight is not something that comes by itself. So you have to beat yourself until you're able to sit straight. But not too straight, because as some of you may notice, some calligraphers usually say they've got the problem. It hurts after a while. So if you have like 4 hours lectures and you're taking notes and you're sitting like this, after 2 hours your back starts to hurt. So what you're going to do is sit up straight and lean just the top of your back, so shoulders and then your head just a little bit, so that you can get that nice round back that doesn't hurt too much. Another thing to think about is, are you going to face the desk like you've been taught when you were 6? Or are you going to face the camera actually now? Like Spencer used to teach. He'd tell his students to just sit like this, which is really awkward looking for us now because we're not used to it. The reason for that is that because you get this whole arm movement, this forearm moving around with the elbow sliding off, you've got to be able to have the space to do that. What that means is that when your pen is at the very edge of your paper, you've still got to be able, to get your elbow the other way around. So desks used to be really tight so that they could get loads of students in. So Spencer said that. He said, put yourself like this, like that if there's someone 10 centimeters from you, your elbow can still move without knocking him down. But that's not really the case today. I think most people have the space. If you're in a lecture room, you might not have the space, but then you might not want to look silly sitting like this. So I don't know. My advice would be, don't sit like this, because usually you have a wall or a neighbor or someone you don't want to knock. Sit just a little bit sliding off to your right or left, whichever you feel more comfortable with. What it's going to be like is right-handed are going to slide to their left, left-handed are going to slide to their right. There's not really, it's logic. One thing for left-handed writers is that your forearm has to be in line with the slant. What's a slant? It's that small italic curve that we're going to get to our writing, right? You've probably been taught to write like this. So let's say you're drawing an L, it points up and it points down. But you might have been taught, and I've learned that some American school teach, is a slight slant. So instead of pointing up, you're just going to point a little bit to the right to give a nice feeling of the letter leaning to the right, and it gives a nice feeling of just the text throwing itself. It's really nice. You're going to learn it. What that means is that your arm has not got to be perpendicular to the paper, but just a little bit like you're writing, just a little to the left, and get that feeling where it's like this, your paper is like this, right? Right-handed people don't really have that problem. Why? Because when we write, we're bringing the writing with us, so not really too much of a problem. If left-handed people look at a guy called John de Colibus, it's one of the world's most famous calligraphers, and he's left-handed. His technique will usually be that, to take the paper, slide it a little to the left, have his hand with the slant, and then with his right hand, he'd make sure the paper does not move. Why? Because you end up having to do that, which sometimes pulls the paper with it. So use your right hand to really bring the paper down, and then you can get some nice curves. Obviously, I'm not a left-handed writer, so I'm not going to write anything with my left hand now. So yeah, basically remember that right-handed people don't really have the problem. So yeah, we're pretty lucky. If you're left-handed, get your forearm with your slant. If there's no slant, with the edge of the paper, parallel to it. Make sure you hold your pen not at the tip, or you'll end up smudging the paper, but just a little more to the base, not too much, that's way too much, but make sure you give enough space so that once you write, you don't get the paper smudging everywhere. And right-handed writers, just thank the Lord you're not left-handed. Yeah, that was it for today, I think. If you've got any questions, you can ask them anywhere from this video to the handwriting repair subreddit or the handwriting repair class on Reddit. I check all three. It takes me 20 minutes every day, but anyway. Thanks for watching. I'd say like and subscribe, but I don't really care. Sign up for my class. That's always made me feel good inside. Yeah, and have a good day and start practicing that arm movement.